welcome to the GRHL podcast, Season 6, Episode 4. I'm Heavy Metal Riff, and with me is Fluxay.
Fluxay in the hizzy.
Woo woo!
What?
Tonight we'll be talking about the standings. We'll review each team and talk about where they fall. We'll look at the leaderboards, talk about who's doing well. Fluxay has his Between the Pipes section. We'll talk about what's going around the GRHL, my question as usual, and then we'll be done.
Yes.
And then you'll all be happier for it.
Right. And get off our backs because the podcast is done.
Yes, exactly. Gosh, all 80 or so of you.
I mean, only two people listen to this
Two
shit.
Watching it 40 times, and that's us.
Hey, we did have 100 hits on YouTube I saw today.
Yeah, so thanks to
record.
all of you. Yeah, all of you who are going out and listening to this and then bitching about it, and we appreciate it because at least you're checking it out. And that's good.
Yeah.
So whatever, if you're listening for an hour, if you're listening for 15 minutes, we appreciate it.
Exactly. So we've got starting off right between the weeks is where we'd like to be. Unfortunately, we are recording right before week 3 starts off, so a good time to look back on week 2.
So let's get into the standings. Starting in let's start in the West this time because I'm feeling the West for some.
Yeah, we always
some
start in the East.
reason.
Variety is the spice of life, so they say.
Yeah, and we are trying to spice it up for you. We added a pinch of pepper, not too much spice though.
I like to preface the standings with I'm calling this week 2 the week of redemption. For some teams, from other teams, not so much, but for some there was redemption. Yeah, it's just good.
You can see that there's definitely some gelling happening, hopefully, in most of these teams.
So jelly.
Jelly. You jelly, bro?
All right, hit me with those standings, yo.
With these sweet stats. All right, well, in the West, we've got St. Louis at number 4 with 0 wins, 6 losses, and 1 overtime loss. That hurts.
You hate to see the goose egg in the first column.
What is going on? They're just having a real hell of a time getting anything started in St. Louis.
Yeah, and maybe it's a chemistry thing, and we'll talk on this later in the show, but they're definitely Don made some moves this week, and hopefully that shakes up the lines and gets them moving, because 18 goals, now obviously not the worst goals this week, but they had one of the lowest goals for and the worst goals against, so something's got to give.
That's a bad combination.
Yeah, there's no way to go around it. They had some of the lowest stats across the board, and I hate to beat up on a team that when they're already slumping. So I just like to, hopefully they've made the right moves necessary to get things turned around there. Yeah,
agreed. Unfortunately, they didn't. They had that one overtime loss against Tampa Bay, 3-4, and then pretty much for the rest of their week, especially on Thursday, it just did not go their way. The closest they got was with St. Louis losing 4-5, so and 3-4 with Islanders. So something there. Hopefully these changes will help, but
yeah,
just
not. A quick correction there. You mean they lost to Los Angeles 5-4?
Oh, sorry. I said
you said St. Louis. Just want to clarify for those kids at home that
thank you
can't see with the Gaming Rendo podcast war room that we have, the situation room with all our monitors, our live stat streaming,
instantly being updated as we speak.
My goaltending calculator machine that always puts soccer on bottom. It's the damnedest thing.
I like it. I don't know why that is, but let's move on to Calgary.
Yeah, let's go on.
Calgary number 3 in the West with 2 wins, 4 losses, and 1 overtime loss. Goals for 24, goals against 38 at a differential of -14. Boy, I felt like they just kind of came down after that first week.
Yeah, their first week they had a good, had a strong week. They finished the first week 5-2, and so this is kind of going in the exact opposite direction of that first week.
Their first game of week 2 was against Detroit, getting blown out 9-2. That can set the tone for the rest of the week, and it's kind of shitty.
Yeah.
And then of course they got blown out again, 10-3 by Tampa Bay. blown out again by Dallas 7-2. Calgary finally gets a win 5-0 on the Islanders, and then gets another win 5-2 against St. Louis. So they really just started the week not strong at all, and then finished it, with some dignity.
Yeah. And we've talked about this before and with other reviews. I mean, at least you put 2 wins in a row on that last day, and hopefully, at least that gives you a little fuzzy feeling going into week 3, and you can't just be like, oh, we sucked. You got those 2 wins. I mean, one of them was a shutout too, so at least then you can take that positive note and say, all right, we're capable. Let's do this.
Yeah, carry this into the next week. Hopefully, they carry the momentum of Thursday into week 3.
Right.
So I guess we'll just see.
And that's the tough thing. I mean, at least the important thing is the teams that you should beat, you need to beat. And they beat the Islanders and they beat St. Louis, which statistic-wise right now, they should. But now they got to figure out how to beat a very, very consistent Dallas team and a very dominant Los Angeles team if they want to have a chance to compete in that conference.
Agreed. Good way to put it.
Well, thank you all.
Speaking of Dallas, let's move on to Dallas at number 2 with 5 wins, 2 losses, with goals for 26, goals against 18. So they were able to stay above that positive mark at 8 goal differential. So they're actually, I feel like they're getting some headway. They're making some headway since preseason in week 1.
Yeah, and it was a good turnaround from week 1. I mean, they finished 3-3-1, so it wasn't a horrible week 1, but then to go 5-2, and at one point they were 5-0 in week 2, and it wasn't until those last couple games that they took some L's, but they had a very good shot at going undefeated this week. But I mean, the numbers that really jump out with only having one goaltender really in rotation. It's been kind of a goaltender by committee for that backup position. They have a very, very low goal against, third best in the league right now for this week, for week 2, that is.
Yeah. So good to see them getting on track and just getting better and better as they go along.
Yeah, and they had some decisive wins, beating Tampa 3-1, beating Calgary 5-3, again 7-2, and then that was kind of the end of the highlights there, because then they had the loss to Tampa and the loss to LA. But I mean, still, a very strong showing from Dallas this week, and a good showing for them, at least for the outlook of the rest of their season. I mean, that's if they can just duplicate this week, I mean, they're going to make it into the playoffs, no problem.
So let's move on to Los Angeles at number 1. Again, no surprise there, I think. But I think Dallas is starting to give them a run for their money. So at least for week 2, we can say they are number 1 with 6 wins, 1 loss, and goals for 27, goals against 17, with a differential of 10. So let's see. What was their one loss was against Detroit. So another big powerhouse that they had to go up against. So I think those matches, the LA's versus Detroit's are always interesting. So
yeah, I mean, they had back-to-back wins against the Islanders, a win against St. Louis. 2 wins, back-to-back wins against St. Louis, and then the loss to Detroit, and then decisive wins over Pittsburgh and Dallas to end the week. So it's not really a big surprise. I mean, they've got good defense. They're having really strong goaltending right now. They have strong scoring. I mean, every category that you want, LA's got it. So I think they have improved over every aspect of the team last season. I mean, they have the same strengths, and now what was a little shakier when it been the defense and the goaltending has definitely been fixed in this season.
They're running on all cylinders right now.
Now, since I hear it chattered about, is there a goalie controversy in Los Angeles?
What?
I mean, Soccer's putting up a strong case for being a starter, but he's only getting backup minutes. So, will we see a change, or will Drew put his iron fist down and say, no, I am the GM, I get the starts? Just saying. It should be interesting to see what happens. And maybe, since he's returned to the GRHL, maybe Joey C. will have some input in a Slapshot article, although his one has already been released. And I know he had some words on it, but it'll be interesting to see how his narrative develops throughout the course of the season.
I know I'll be following that.
You should be.
I will. I always follow soccer.
You do follow soccer. That's the West. Or excuse me.
That is the West.
Yes, that is the West. don't remember my divisions or conferences or leagues or anything.
That's
but yes.
the North. So let's move on to the East with the Islanders sitting at number 4 for Week 2 with a record of the Islanders with the record of 1 win, 5 losses, and 1 overtime loss with a goals for of 17 and a goals against of 27 at -10 differential.
The goals against isn't horrible. I mean, you can work with that. The number you got to worry about is 17 goals scored. That's the lowest for the week in the league, and that's just not going to get it done. I mean, unless you have stellar defense and goaltending, which unfortunately we know isn't the case with the 27 goals against, they got to score more goals.
Yeah, it's just that simple. I mean, somebody's got to step up and start scoring, and with 17 goals for in 7 games is pretty disgusting. I mean, just to put it, like, you can't be happy about that.
Yeah, and oddly enough, though, I mean, you look at their first 2 losses were 2-1 losses, so the goals weren't a huge number there. But then they lost 3-1 to Dallas, and then they got a little outplayed, and then finally lost 5-4 to Pittsburgh in overtime. So they put some numbers up there, and then in a win, they scored 4 goals, but then they were shut out against Calgary, but then came back and played against Tampa Bay and got 6 goals. So you kind of saw some signs of life there at the end. But, yeah. I mean, again, this is another team we'll talk about later on as well that made a bunch of moves this week, too. So there's been an ownership change. There's been a whole bunch of stuff going on there on the island of New York Islanders. So
Islanders.
So we could see a whole new difference here in Week 3 because that team makeup is drastically different.
Moving on to Tampa Bay at number 3, I think, tied, I guess, for second or third or whatever you want to say.
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh won the head-to-head, so I think you got to give it to Pittsburgh right now.
Very true, very true. So at number 3 with 4 wins, 3 losses, 32 goals for, 26 goals against at a positive 6 differential. So much better than Week 1, but still not, I think, up to anyone's standards.
It's still a team that's underperforming.
Looks good on paper, but just, like you said, underperforming.
Now, if you look at 3-4 in Week 1, now they got 4-3. Okay, it's a step in the right direction. It's not good enough yet, but it's in the right direction. I think they have a little more favorable schedule in Week 3 than what they've had, so good chance for them to make up some ground and further solidify themselves as the number 2 seed.
I feel like we're the Dallas of the East.
Yeah,
we being
just haven't been nearly as consistent in the play, but it's good to see. I mean, at least they're scoring goals. I mean, that was the struggle I think in week 1. Tampa wasn't scoring. Now they're scoring. Now it's just the defense needs to step up a little bit. Particularly comes in mind the game against the Islanders when they were losing. What was it, 6-3 or 6-4 going into the third?
Yeah, something like that. I was in that game.
Yeah, and then you guys somehow came back and won 7-6. So not the best way you want to play.
I have to say, though, I was going to bring that up since I played in it. I mean, for anyone who wasn't in that game, it was one of those games where you're just so excited that you battled back. I mean, the Islanders should have won that game. Yeah. I mean, they really should have. We had no business winning that game, but it felt great to be able to pull out 2 wins on Thursday. 'Cause, I mean, if we would have lost that one, we would have, been on. I feel like we wouldn't be talking about how we feel like we've made up as much ground as we have. Yeah. So I think our momentum is shifting into the positive direction, hopefully.
I think the storyline to watch this week for Tampa is going to be, can they overcome adversity? Because right now, their owner can't put in stats or submit lines, so he just got suspended for 2 games.
I can't figure out how
doesn't have stats to go off, so he can't keep track of how many games he's played, so he gets suspended. Yes. So right there, you're losing 3-man games to suspensions. Problems with their backup goaltender and availability. So
there's a lot of question marks.
There's a lot of roster issues right now in Tampa, so we'll see if they can field lines for every game and see if they can overcome this, because I think this will be a real test for that team. So let's go to Pittsburgh.
Yes, I was just going to say real quick that we don't mean to talk more about Tampa Bay than anything else, but we're both on the team, so we kind of have firsthand knowledge compared to every other team. So we try not to favorite our own team show favoritism towards our own team, but it's easy to speak of it because we kind of know what's going on more as far as the team is concerned. So moving on to Pittsburgh, again, like I said, tied for 4 wins, 3 losses for a goals for of 27 and goals against 34. So -7 differential there. So is it a case, do you think, of scoring over defense, or there's some problem when you're at number 2 for the week and you have a negative differential for goals?
Well, what's hurt them is they had a 5-1 loss to Dallas, and then an 8-2 loss to Detroit.
Ouch.
So that's gonna skew that whole thing a little bit. I mean, they had a 5-4 win to Calgary, a 5-4 win at the Islanders, a 5-2 win at Tampa, and then a 5-4 win in Detroit. That's the big thing. They came back and beat Detroit in overtime, the last game of the week. They did have a substantial loss to LA 7-4, but the main thing here to really look at is, week 1 they were 1-6, and we thought, oh no, we got it. They're off to a bottom-feeding season start. But then they come back with a 4-3 and completely change, where they'd be in the conversation of the conference. So, and line-wise, one of their top forward lines is a really good line.
I've always heard, I feel like everyone's talking about Pittsburgh right now. Everyone is in general surprise over how well they're doing, and I think that they deserve every bit of what they're,
where are you going with this here? Feed me
I don't
something.
know. Trail off. No, they deserve every bit of respect and conversation that's getting drummed up about them. I think that they can continue. What I'm trying to say is basically, I think that it's well deserved and that it's not a fluke. I bet they will. They may fall to spot 3. They may move above Detroit. It's anybody's game right now, and I think that they're a serious contender. And it's no fluke. They're here to compete, and I think it just took them a little while to gain some momentum.
There you go.
Eloquently put, too. That's the best part about that whole rant. Let's move on from that and talk about Detroit, if we could.
Yes, please do.
Again, no surprise, I think, that they went 6 wins with 1 overtime loss, so just narrowly missed the perfect week. 44 goals for the highest in the league, 16 goals against, the lowest in the league, with a differential of 28. So, that's how you get in first place.
Yeah. I don't think there's any big surprise here. Just the fact that Detroit did improve from having a regulation loss to only having a overtime loss. So they've got 13. They got 13 out of 14 possible points, and they're sitting well, and will continue to sit well this season until a team has a remedy to defeat them.
Highest power play percentage, highest penalty kill percentage. It's just going all.
It's all coming up Millhouse.
That's right.
Everything's coming up Millhouse in Detroit.
Oh yeah. So these teams, whenever you see you're facing Detroit, it's like, what do? We all know how they play, but it's being able to do something about it that really counts. And so, like you said, until one team figures that out, I think they're going to be at number 1 for quite some time.
Yeah. Just punch that ticket to the playoffs. Hey, you.
God. All right,
yes. So that's the week there, huh? That's your standing.
That is the week, and I'm trying to this website, the stats website. There we go. Gosh, must be 3 people were on it all at the same time because I couldn't get it to load. It was disgusting. I hated it.
So that must mean we're going to the player stats.
That's right. Players play on. So let's talk a little bit about some of the forwards with the highest goals. Now, as you pointed out,
I don't know if
show,
I don't have very good vision, but if I sort the goals column So the lowest is on the bottom, and the highest is on the top.
The highest at the top.
Gee, Mom, Dad, I can't read's good, but that says Heavy Metal Riff with 11 goals. Am I squinting, or is that correct?
That is correct. I did play 5 games, but if you look at 2 of them, in 2 of them I literally did nothing. So that was a mishap on my part. As you said earlier, it's hard to figure out how many games you've played when no one's put in lines and no one's put in stats. So you'd think I'd remember something like that, but I don't. I'm sitting at top with 11. Knife Splash, on the other hand, I think has woken up a bit for this season and got 9 goals, also 10 assists. So that's pretty damn good with 19 points. And then, of course, we've got about 7,000 Detroit players. Nice Pizza with 8 goals, the Reaper with 8 goals, Duchesne with 7 goals, and then on down the line. So, bust out week for me for goals, which I normally don't do. So
yeah,
that's that. For the Apple men, we've got Lido with 11, Nice Pizza with 11, Marcotti 2 with 11. So 3 people with 11, 3 people with 10, Duchesne, Knife Splash, Chewbacca, 3 people with 8, Prodigy, Primal Fury, and it goes down.
You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players from Detroit in that top category. So.
Yep, exactly. So, of course, your points leader, Knife Splash, 19, Nice Pizza, 19, myself, 18, Duchesne, 17. So, Chewbacca, 16, Marco. So, some familiar faces. No surprise there, I think.
Here's a crazy thing. I'm just quickly looking. At hits, Miz 56 hits this week in week 2. 56, damn. And Consistent X with 46, Leto with 31, Snoopy 31, Messiah 24. I mean, that's insane.
You know how I've told you I like my forwards who hit. So I mean, good job, Miz. I think that's awesome. I've been hit by him plenty of times. He will rock you, as the song goes. So. And then, of course, we got Rendo trying his hardest. He's got to be good at something, so he figured I can hit people. I'm gonna get on the hits list, but sitting at number 4.
Yeah. Looking at defensemen only, Spezza 3 goals, Rendo 2, Boski 2, Jim 2, and LaRue 2 goals. Assists wise, Nastiest Guy with 6, Rendo with 5, Spezza with 3. Excuse me, I can't even read that. 6, Spezza with 5, Heisenberg with 5, Boski with 4, and Dead Memories with 4. Your points leader, Spezza with 8, Rendo 7, Boski 6, Nastiest 6, and LaRue 5. And like you said, your biggest hitter on D was Emmerich with 52, and Rendo at 31.
Nice job.
Pretty interesting.
Pretty good. So, that concludes all the skaters on the ice. Why don't we get into Between the Pipes? What's that saying?
Yes, man. Yes. The Between the Pipes.
Some controversy here.
Well, I wouldn't know if it's controversy, but personally, I never knew my opinion was put into such high regard among other players in the league, and apparently some people get pretty butthurt when I don't give them this luxurious title of being goaltender of the week.
Yes.
I'm not going to throw out names, but I don't know, when I see shit in the chat box repeatedly and then media articles going on and on about it, I have to take notice. So I just find it interesting that a goaltender that has such mediocre stats as I do this season, his opinion is held so highly. So thank you, GRHL, for making me feel privileged.
What have you guys created? What have you done?
We've got quite a few goalies that snagged 3 wins this week. Nobody's getting 4 wins yet. That didn't happen this week. But Tyrant, Soccer, Shady, Giroux, Shifty all had 3 wins.
Nice. Important to note that the first 3, Tyrant, Soccer, and Shady, also only played 3 games, so they've won every game they played that week.
That seems to be the magic number. I mean, otherwise, we only had, there's, I guess, a handful, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 goalies that played 4, and 1 goalie that played his max at 5. But let's look at your saves leader. Drew had 61, Dahed 53, Fluxay 46, Soccer 42, and Mikey 42. Your save percentage, Soccer's at a 91, Tyrant's an 88, Rebel's an 86, Kilobeats an 85, and Drew an 82. Now, why would you laugh about when I mentioned Kilobeats? I just can't imagine why that would get a laugh out of you. That just, how rude.
Sorry.
Indeed. Goal against leaders. Soccer's at a 133. Tyrant's a 182. Shady was at a 2. Rebels at a 222. Curl Beats 2.5. Oh, there it is. And your shutout leaders, Soccer and Monty, only 2 goalies snagging a shutout this week. Nice. So, with the numbers,
I do want to say with the goals against.
Yes.
If you flip it the other way, holy cow! Night Bandit, Dice Feigner. I'm sorry, you guys.
That's not a good.
Yeah.
But
that hurts. Fuck, say you've been there before.
Yeah,
well, not.
I mean, they're also on a team in St. Louis that's still searching for.
That's right. Yeah. I don't mean to kick you while you're down. I'm just trying to bring up the point that that can suck. So keep at it and don't let it get you down.
It sucks. It sucks a lot to have to deal with that. Anyway, let me take all those goalie numbers. Hold on, and let me throw them into the Flux Goalie Calculator-O-Matic 3000
Flux
Turbo
Edition. Turbo Edition.
Turbo Edition, kind of like Street Fighter 2 HD Alpha.
I like it.
Yeah, you should. So we'll let that sizzle a little bit, and man, we might. I'm gonna throw a new name into the hat for this week. So I'm gonna go. My top 3 will be Soccer. It's going to be Tyrant again. But stealing that 3rd spot this week from Drew, I'm going to dig down a little bit and throw in Mikey. Mikey 813 from Islanders, because he had just above an 80 save percentage, barely over a 3 goal against, but he also lost all 3 games. So, pretty solid numbers to have a losing record, while these other guys had a winning record.
Yeah.
His team was also struggling a lot. So, congratulations. Those are my 3 finalists. Soccer, Tyrant, Mikey. Congrats, guys.
But there can only be one.
There can only be one. Just like Duncan McLeod of the Clan McLeod. There's only one Highlander, so there only can be one Flux Days Goaltender of the Week, week number 2. And God, it pains me to the very core to have to say this. Like, it just feels wrong. You know? It's like my soul is being wrenched a little bit. But the winner for week 2, Soccer JRC 18. With 3 wins, 0 losses, only 4 goals against, with a 91 save percentage, 133 goal against, and a shutout. So,
you did it, buddy.
Get the fuck off my nuts. You won Goaltender of the Week.
Well, he only had to show up and play well. I mean, that's all you got to do to win the award.
That's all you got to do. Show up and play well. So yeah,
there you go.
Congrats to everybody else.
I hope it feels as good as you expected it to feel.
It's like probably winning the Special Olympics.
That's true. So, well, that concludes the Between the Pipes portion of our show. Let's talk about what's going on around the GRHL.
Around.
All the way around the world. Around the world.
Well, I think number one thing we talked about was the ownership change in New York. Obsolete color. I don't know what happened. I saw some PMs that as
his
an
color was
executive,
obsolete.
Yes, I can't disclose, but there was some frustration, some anger, and he basically said, "I'm out.
Fuck this."
And so he left the team, was released by the team, and now Mikey has taken over as owner, and
is he going to play?
His GM. Well, that's the thing. He was released by the team, so he clearly messaged his executives and said he was done, wanted to be deleted from the league, and was out. So
so he did leave.
Yeah,
completely.
So his team released him, and by rule, you're blacklisted. I mean, you're done for the season now. He might
that sucks.
appeal it a little bit, and if it's overturned, I mean, he can come back as an ECU, but he will not be playing. So, I mean, every action has a consequence. So, I mean, much like, Clown Boy wanted to come back in the league this year, and he is not due to his actions, or Bitches Love B Hayes, and all the other 50 gamer tags he had. He tried to get back in the league, but tried to catfish under an alternate gamer tag, or forum name, pretending, oh, I'm going to type in the chat box, I've never heard of this league, is it good? But we knew it was him.
That's just sad.
Yeah, instead of just coming clean and just appealing your suspension, your blacklisting, which would have been overturned, you're going to be allowed right back in, but instead you had to do that, pull a Poland is finest or a Hextall, and now you're only can be an ECU for the season. So, Anyway, yes. So, colors
Real
out,
responsible.
Mikey's in. That's my biggest headline from around the league. Otherwise, we have some interesting media articles that are getting trended each week. Drew, it's no longer power rankings; it's now trending topics.
Trending topics.
Yes.
I like it.
So, looks like we have a little quick. We'll go back to the week 1 review since we didn't record in time to talk about that. He has a PDO list. Stats, which basically is kind of a measure of puck luck and shooting percentage, and it kind of tells you which teams are lucky and which teams are doing well, and which kind of you can really see where teams are, where they are, and why. He talks about some defensive pairing, some surprises in the league, and then just the dominance of Duchesne and the Detroit Funky Bunch.
Oh, I thought that said fucky bunch.
Whoa, bro, easy.
Oh, my bad.
And
my
now
bad.
we'll go into week 2. Again, talks about the Lightning possibly turning things around, the PDO numbers, troubles in New York, and then about all the moves that we'll break down here in a little bit. And this also erupted into a little pissing match between the Los Angeles goaltenders, which they can sort that out in their locker room. We won't go into that. And after we called them out, it was kind of ironic because that same day that we recorded the show last week, Joey Caldiero made his return with the slap shot.
Yes.
I haven't seen him get people's butt hurt yet as last season, but I'm sure people will take things the wrong way and get all pissy about it because it always happens. But now, again, there's some goalie EP showings going on in that thread, so we'll just tiptoe away from that as well.
We can let that just kind of, sizzle.
Yeah, and now the major developments. This is probably a record, I think, in GRHL of how many moves we saw go on in 1 week. Major releases first. We had Double Two Pen getting released from Dallas. He hadn't played a game in that form yet, so it's really not impacting the team. Unfortunately, had some personal issues to come up, which is why it was ultimately decided for him to be released. He wasn't sure when he was going to come back. When he is able to come back, he will be allowed to ECU for the rest of the season. But for the time being, he is out of the league. Shoddy Wizards released from New York. Don't really know what's going on there. We already talked about Obsolete Color. And then, Kilobeats with getting released during the season. Yeah. You go from a starting goaltender to getting released. So he no-showed on his team for some games, and then he kind of he appealed the decision, said he'd come back, but I guess the team ultimately felt like it was the best decision just to part ways and to send him on his way. I mean, they could have bought him out and sent him back into the waivers, but I mean, he was, with the infractions that he had incurred, I mean, he was eligible to be released. So that team felt that was the move they needed to go, and fortunately, he is on the outside looking in again.
Yeah, congrats on that, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Your claims, Dallas gets a historically very strong goaltender in Jay Weezy to fill the void from Double Two Pen. So now at least they'll have a two-goalie tandem again, rather than having their forwards having to step in. New York grabs Jerkface 18 and Useless Goalie. I don't know much about those, except the one must be a jerk, and hopefully the other guy isn't useless, because, well...
If he shows up, he's only twice as useless as every person who...
Yes.
I had a joke there somewhere, but...
You failed.
I decided to fail.
Yeah, that's alright. That'll happen. Now, the trade talk. We have, first up, New York and Detroit. New York sent out Stop Noto, who I believe originally wanted off the team as soon as he was drafted by the team, and
Nice.
Shady from Detroit to New York. So Islanders hopefully have shored up their goaltending issues with Shady and Useless Goalie, which oddly is the question is, well, do they really need that? Because you had Mikey, who signed up as a goalie, who can play goalie, who's played strong as a goalie, but must want to play skater. So I guess it's kind of a win-win. You know, Islanders get another goalie, and Stop Noto gets out and gets to hang with his bros in Detroit. Him and Duchesne have a little bromance going on, so they get to rekindle that, light some candles, put some Barry White on, and let the magic happen.
Oh, yeah. That's hot.
It is hot. Dallas and Calgary, our own personal favorite, Patrick, KNRS dad, is leaving Dallas and heading to Calgary for Fraser for Heisman. So, two decent defenders. Maybe just a change of scenery will help both teams. I don't know. Ownership must have felt that was a move that should happen.
Well, it's interesting to see how this is going to shake out for the teams, because the teams we just talked about in week 2. When we go to week 3 and do this podcast again, it's going to be like we're talking about a couple of different teams.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how, were these players' impacts or what happened. And then we have Los Angeles and Calgary with Rejected Rapier getting out of L.A. Most interesting banter I've ever seen is the shit that goes around about Rapier. I don't understand it, but he must either sets himself up for it or he just likes it, because, man, those guys in the locker room love to rag on him. And they get Steeler fan from Calgary, so...
Nice.
I think Steeler fan wanted to be with LA since the start of the season. It just didn't work out that way. So, again, maybe a win-win for both teams. I mean, Rapier's having a good season. We know Steeler fan can have a good season. Kind of a equal trade, just, different parts fit better in different systems, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Can't argue with you there.
Yeah. And then your blockbuster here, potentially blockbuster. We've got a 6-player trade between New York and St. Louis.
Jesus.
New York ships out Brochet, GP, and Heisenberg, and receives from St. Louis Night Bandit, X, Levy, Levi, we still don't know, and Julian. So, I mean, between this week, hell, New York shipped out a full line. I mean, half their team's different now. So, I think we should just see drastically different teams in St. Louis and New York just based on these trades. I mean, their whole roster and lines are going to be drastically different based on this.
Yes. I'm sorry. I don't...
Yeah, I was waiting for some intelligent banter, some feedback from you, and I get nothing. I'm very disappointed in Heavy Metal Riff.
I feel like you covered it all. Like, I feel like I can't argue with you.
I'm channeling my inner
anyway.
Al Michaels, or maybe my... I just don't know. They call him the Machine because he catches a lot of passes and he likes robots.
La Machina. Yeah, well, like I said, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. I do have to say that I like that there's some moves being made, because I feel like many of the times, especially when you have people who just sign or draft their friends, that they're reluctant to move anybody because you know these people and you don't want to upset them. But I do like when some moves are made, because it keeps the league fresh and keeps things from getting too samey, I guess.
Yeah,
so.
And usually, you don't see any trades. There's been seasons in the past where we haven't seen any trades go down until the deadline. So it is nice to see teams okay, I need to improve here. You have something. Let's work out. Let's make a deal here.
Yeah.
So
I think there's a lot of teams feeling that they need to make a change. Things aren't... I mean, we have a lot of teams that don't have a lot of momentum going for them right now, and they need to change something. And if that's the way they think they can do it, then more power to them. So I guess we'll find out in week 3.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how these stories develop.
Unfold, yes. I do want to point out that last podcast in this section, I talked about the judiciary decisions for week 1, and I think most of you took what I said to heart about not fucking up, except for my own owner and myself, because, as we said earlier, I couldn't keep track of how many games I played, and Canuck didn't put in the games in time, so for the stats and stuff, so that all that stupid idiot stuff happened. And then unfortunately the Rising Dawn was suspended, but only for playing one more game than he was allowed to in the first week. So I don't think that's too serious. He probably could have been just trying to avoid a forfeit situation.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then whatever. So
stuff happens.
Pretty quiet week.
And he's on vacation this week, so
nice vacay.
Snoopy's running the show there and singing.
He's getting his toes in the sand or in the stand. I mean, that doesn't make any sense, but you could say it if you wanted to.
You could say it. You could,
but let's not. So, let's move. I think that's everything, right? Shall we move on?
That's everything. It's time I can feel something heavy, hard-hitting coming on.
Yes, as it always is. I mean, these are the questions that impact our lives. So, just be aware of that.
God, if my life is only determined by a fucking Xbox League and a question about it,
yes,
man, I need to go through some therapy or something.
You need to reevaluate your words.
I better check myself before I wreck myself.
I think you're already wrecked. So let me get into this a little bit. Let me ask you some questions. I will ask you a question. Each week, if you don't know, I will ask the show's guests a question relating to the league, NHL, the game, or the players, and the community in general. This week's question, we're all aware of the theory called EA tilt, in which you have momentum on your team after scoring a goal or winning a fight, for example. Along with many other parts of the NHL series, it's never been confirmed or denied as far as I know if there is such a thing as EA tilt and momentum, or if there is, it's never been explained how it works or how it affects gameplay. So do you believe in it, or is it just a myth of, is it just an excuse as to why we suddenly gave up 4 goals? What do you think, Flux?
EA will never confirm or deny it, but I think you have to agree that some mechanic like that exists in the game. I mean, look at a shining example that I always remember is NFL Blitz. Okay, completely different game, but I had it on PlayStation and I've played it on Nintendo 64. Me and my buddies in high school would always play it before our football games on Friday. And I could dominate your team. The entire first half, you would not catch a pass. I would intercept every pass, and we would put up 20, 30 points on you. We get into the second half, especially in the fourth quarter, could not intercept anything. Your team would complete all the passes. So it was called CPU assist to help make the games a little closer.
Oh, God. It's kind of reminds me of when you're playing a racing game and you or a CPU or something gets so far behind that they actually make your car go faster than it normally would be able to, so that you can catch up.
Or the blue shell in Mario Kart.
Yes,
come on.
The infamous
guy in first place. What do you get for weapons? Here's a fucking banana peel. Good luck.
Yep.
Guy in last place. Here, have 5 blue shells in a row. But yes, I believe Ice Tilt is there, and I mean, it'd be interesting if we knew how momentum exactly worked, too, because I can understand that. If a team gets a couple goals in a row, that should affect gameplay a little bit. But the problem is, sometimes Ice Tilt is, determined randomly at the start of the game. And for some reason or another, your team isn't going to be able to complete a pass. You're not going to be able to hit the net. It's just so many factors that seem to be a predetermined outcome against your team in that game.
Well, and I feel like, too, that along with this subject, they talk about how it's possible for your guy to get intimidated if a giant check is laid on him or whatever, and there is no indication of that happening whatsoever. So it's as simple as just putting in a flashing diamond above your guy. When your diamond is flashing, that means you're intimidated or something, because even when you get injured, you can see your overall score go down, but you have no idea what that means. You don't know if it's your speed. You're just left to guess.
Yeah.
And so
at least you have the number, though, and at least the on-screen animation that you were injured. So at least you know. Yes,
exactly. So I think with the EA tilt and the momentum and all that stuff, part of me wants to agree, and I'm sure there is something like that in most of their games like this, but I can't help but feel that sometimes it's leaned on a little too much. You know what I mean? If you lose a game 9-2, I don't think that you can blame all of that on EA tilt or momentum. So it's like, where do you draw the line between straight up getting effed over and you had no I think it's the closer games. The games where, well, for instance, the Tampa Bay game with oh my God, was it Dallas? No, Islanders, sorry. Excuse me. The Islanders at Thursday at 11. And we ended up, pulling out a victory where we had no business winning. That I could attribute that to momentum.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like just completely getting dominated throughout an entire game, I don't think you can just simply blame momentum on that one. But yeah, it's those closer games I feel it more, where it's like you said, you go up by 3 goals and then you can't, and no matter what you do, their goalie is making every save, ridiculous ones that you don't think could ever happen, and it just goes from there. So, that's our opinions on the matter. If you guys have anything more to add, or if you guys don't believe in it, or whatever you want to say, just let us know on the forum where this will be posted, and we would like to hear from you. So,
or just bitch about other things and not respond to it. That's what happens. But
yeah.
So before we go, I mean, do you have anything else you'd like to throw out there? Any things you'd like to see happen in week 3?
Well, I'd like to see Tampa Bay get its shit together. That would be kind of nice. I'm speaking from experience. I would like to see Dallas continue on a roll. Pittsburgh, I think I would like to see, if not gain momentum, at least keep kind of where they're at going.
Yeah.
I think they got a good thing going, and if they can keep stride, that would be nice for them, I think. I feel like in seasons past, there's always been the 3 or 4 teams that are like on one tier, and then the 2 that are left, or 3 or whatever, who are kind of just fighting it out amongst themselves for the losers trophy, or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So yeah, that's those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I'd like to see Islanders obviously turn around this week, because I would love to have. I mean, obviously it's going to be a race behind Detroit, but I would love to see a competition between Tampa, the Islanders, and Pittsburgh moving throughout the season. I hated last season where you had your 2 teams pretty much already decided, and it was just, and the other teams were never a chance. I would love to see a competitive conference in the league instead of having such a huge division between levels. And I think you've got a good chance here. I don't see. I hate to go against my own team, but I don't see Tampa catching Detroit whatsoever.
Not this week.
Some weird miracle happened and somehow Detroit says, we're going to start losing games, which I only see that happening if guys don't show up, or I don't know who's going to be their second goaltender now that they have Shady gone. So that's the question I guess we'll see answered this week, is who's going to be the number 2. And as far as the West, I want to see St. Louis get some fucking wins.
Yeah, I was going to say that as well.
Number 1, I applaud anybody on that team that's been there since week 1 and that keeps showing up for that management when they're losing, because there's so many oftentimes that guys will just say, fuck you, and this team sucks, and they just don't care.
Why am I
stop
wasting my
playing.
time?
Yeah, and they just fuck the team over. So if those guys on that team, they're still showing up, I fucking applaud you guys, because it's a really good sign of character that shows that you guys are going to keep showing up. And I hope, hopefully things get, those trades pay off, and, they get something strung together, because I feel like they're right on that threshold. It's kind of like, watching the Detroit Lions every season. They just find ways to lose. So hopefully now St. Louis is going to find ways to win and bounce back from that. And again, I mean, we could see if they could go on a run, we can see them in the conversation for that conference. Because again, I mean, that right now, if Dallas keeps up where they're at and Calgary repeats week 1, we're going to see a really competitive Western Conference too. So, I mean, that's what I guess I'm most excited for, is the chance that we could actually see some races going down the line for the playoffs, where that last week really does determine the playoff picture rather than it already being decided at week 5.
Hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So
good luck to everyone in week 3, and hopefully we see a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Like you said, competition is always good. We don't want you guys falling behind and just being like, why bother showing up? So anything can happen. That's the great thing about hockey. So
yeah, you got puck drop coming up, and just a little over an hour for a game.
Yeah, we better wrap this up so that we can get our fucking uniforms on and get out there, right? So So for next week, we'll break down the Week 3 standings, obviously, go over anything else that's gone on in the around the GRHL. We'll have your leaderboards, Between the Pipes with Flux, my question, and hopefully a mystery interview. So
someone will be joining us in the studio.
That's right. So check that out, and we'll see you next week.